My name is Akil Patterson, host of the Big 3 Meet podcast powered by G Media. And on this week's episode, we have Hunter Williams, co-founder of Unchained Partners. And as always, folks, welcome to the Big 3 Meet podcast powered by G Media. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the Big 3 and Me, and we're back with my friend Hunter from Unchained Partners. Thank you so much for joining us today, because I think it's important that as we're starting to tell narratives and tell stories in the Web3 and blockchain communities, that we actually start talking about like the sensible businessmen that come behind it. And so glad to have you on here. And first, tell us a little bit about Unchained Partners and what you guys are building over there.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Definitely excited to dive into a whole list of topics today. But yeah, I think Unchained Partners is a great place to start in terms of what we're doing and a little bit about what we offer. It's always so funny trying to very concisely tell someone what we do, because we are a consulting firm in the Web3 space, and our list of services has grown from everything from go-to-market strategy and execution all the way up until legal assessments and smart contract development and everything you could possibly need under the sun, and a lot of biz dev consulting as well. But we are simply a collective of partners who have been in the Web3 space, leading projects, working on projects for a long enough time to where we know the pain points that people encounter in this space, and hopefully have learned some pretty great methods for working around that and really helping to grow projects. And we work with everything from the smallest of little token ICOs and NFT launches all the way up to big public companies.
So let's rewind then. I mean, you're saying that you've learned the pain points. So that means you had to learn the pain points by either doing one of two things. And I like what someone once told me. They said you either learn a lot or you lose a lot in this space. And, I'm going to assume that you learned a lot first before you lost a lot, but you could have lost a lot too. Tell me about the background story of how you got to learn those pain points in this industry.
Yeah, as they say in Spanish, ¿por qué no los dos? I think I've definitely learned a lot and lost a lot. I think it's the mistakes that we grow from the most. And yeah, so I mean, I guess we can start at the early days. Been in crypto for a long time, and traditionally was in the space as an investor. I learned about Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything very early, and got to get in a little, got to get in fairly early, and I fell in love with the technology. But it was mostly as a fan of the technology, a fan of the space, a fan of what it could bring in the future. And it wasn't until DeFi started to become a major principle that I dived headfirst into the space and really fell in love, and was really passionate about all of what it can do for the world, especially because my family and I do a lot of work in Africa, and one of the things we focus a lot on is wealth management and creation in terms of like how can you move up in the socioeconomic classes when you're starting out in a tribal village. And seeing some of the methodologies behind that in the DeFi space was really, really inspiring. And so yeah, just immediately fell in love and dived in as head first and as much as I can, and offered to provide my services and help wherever I could in the DeFi space, and ended up advising on a few projects, and then ended up getting really, really involved in some major projects from a biz dev perspective. Naturally, that's what I found that I'm passionate about. It's what I love. I love connecting dots. I love, sort of setting up the business behind these entities, especially in the wild west of the land of DeFi and token ICOs, where the business is first we release the contract and tell the world about it, then get to $20 million market cap. And then we think about, okay, what's our business plan? Where we see that so often in the space, especially in the early days. So I had a passion for stepping in and really helping with biz dev of certain projects. And one in particular was Hoj, which I fell in love with and became my life and everything for quite a long time. And it through this process of working with Hoj and other projects in terms of from a business development perspective, I made so many mistakes, just countless mistakes, again and again and again and again and again. And that is where we talk about, we either learned a lot or we lost a lot. And I was doing both at the same time, but I even managed to do a few things right and just, one or two things right. But throughout that process, I learned so much about like what makes this space so different and what makes the community in this space so different. And it was through Hoj that I met the core partner that I work with a lot. And it's been just an amazing experience, because through all of that, people started to come to me and they said, "Hey, I know you've done X, Y, and Z. I know you've worked with this exchange. I know you've gotten tokens listed here. I know you've done audits with this auditor. I know you've done strategic partnerships and set up these strategic partners with these brands. We've seen you do that. Can you help us with a similar process?" And so that enough people started to come to me and ask for things like this, that it naturally pushed me in towards the consulting side of things, which is something I found out that I loved. I loved being able to impart that small amount of knowledge that I had gained over the years, and be able to help people that I really feel like deserve to win in this space and deserve to be a major player in this space. And from there, I think I talked about how we offer this crazy list of services that covers everything under the sun that a Web3 project can need. And that's primarily because as we got into consulting, me and my partner, who in the early days, it was just a few of us just working round the clock. But then, they would say, "Hey, well, we know you're doing business development," which is, I only ever thought I would be doing biz dev for small DeFi projects. And then they would say, "Well, we know you're in biz dev. Can we have help with marketing as well? We need this and that for marketing." So we started the marketing division. And then enough people started asking for help with legal opinions and making sure they're on the right track, with SEC compliance and FTC compliance. And so we have a legal department and partnered with several major law firms in accordance with that. And then enough people started asking for technical help and Web3 integration, smart contract development, to where we have a technical department, and we just kept growing like that. And to where now we offer this huge list of services to this myriad of different clients, ranging from individual like DeFi tokens and NFT projects, all the way up to these big public companies that we were mentioning. So I know I ranted for a while, but
no, you're
how
good,
we got here.
I think one of the things that I was thinking about as you're talking is like, well, is to scale, right? You're learning these things, but you're having to scale at the same time. And as we know that the crypto NFT world that we have, scaling to them, it's like giving a company time to scale is almost like a faux pas subject matter. Like, no, you better have all your shit ready to go right now. You better pump my bags. This NFT better be going to the moon tomorrow. Like, how do you all go back to your client and go, "Hey, I need you to manage expectations," because while we're working to make sure that you have a solid project, we're not going to work for you to have a solid project that fails,
Yeah, exactly. And that managing expectations is really everything. I mean, we have a great track record and we've worked with some amazing people, but the managing expectations is everything in terms of the second we sit down with our clients for the first time and we do this overall assessment of okay, where is their project as a whole? We tend not to like these sort of cookie cutter solutions to our clients, because in the early days, yes, clients would come to us and they say, "We want influencers. We want Snoop Dogg or whoever to tweet about us." And they say, "We want influencers." And those influencers or whatever these short-term solutions are, they tend to work well on like a really short-term basis. But oftentimes people come to us and ask just for that, and they wouldn't have the foundational backing of everything they need to support this influx of new users. And it wouldn't have the impact of nearly what it could. And so that's one of the first things we really try and do with our clients, which is like sort of like rewire or retrain the expectations of what creates long-term success. Because so many people in the Web3 space are about, no, our community needs us to pump the bags now, rather than, hey, let's create a very strong content engine. Let's be creating content on a really regular basis and having this massive repository of material and content that we need for marketing. And then let's jump into, making sure our legal foundations are set, and then jumping into, okay, well, let's make sure everything from the technical end is audited and sustainable and scalable, and providing that long-term value. I've always said, when the really well-informed investors, whether it's the NFT space or token space, are looking at a project, the really well-informed ones don't look for, hey, what's going to pump my bag tomorrow? They look for a strong roadmap that says, we are going to continue to build in this space again and again, and we're going to continue to provide success in this space again and again and again, and we're going to have consistent growth. And you look at examples like Moonbirds is a really good example. And if you look at really what is behind Moonbirds, you say, okay, well, they don't have like any crazy new utility. There really isn't any crazy new utility behind them. There's nothing that's particularly unique behind them. And so you say, okay, what is
and they're ugly.
What's that?
And they're ugly.
They're ugly.
I'm talking for myself.
No, they are. They're 8-bit. I've never been a huge fan of the 8-bit, but I understand a lot of people's love for it. But when you look at Moonbirds and you're saying, okay, what is making this project work? Why are these massive investors so attracted to it? And you needed a minimum of 2.5 ETH just to get in your wallet, just to get into their whitelist. I mean, it attracted very large investors. So the question became, why? And the answer is because it was by the Proof Collective. And they had a track record of delivering on milestones and roadmaps. And that's it. That's it. That is what really was one of the driving factors behind, or the major driving factor behind, their success. And some people will say, okay, well, maybe it was like market manipulation by certain VCs, but VCs still picked it because of that reason. And it's a really interesting use case and sort of case study, if you will, to show how much people love it and why it's so important to have that foundation.
Yeah. So now let's even rewind even further, right? Let's go back to this 6'4" redhead kid sitting in his college dorm room, figuring out what is he going to do with the rest of his life, and building and getting in on crypto to like go like, you know what? Because I know your background story, right? Your background story is you're like, look, I didn't grow up impoverished, but I grew up a kid that had to work for everything, right? So now you're saying, you're a college student, you're like, there are two tracks I'm going to take. Either I'm going to be under the thumb of someone else my entire life, or I'm going to find that financial freedom that I want so I can have the relationships and the community that I choose. Tell me about that moment when you decide to go into crypto and DeFi and yeah, telling that narrative.
I think it's a really good question. So this was, I think it was, so first off, in college, I actually had this massive sort of moment of like, oh, I don't really know what I love and what I love most in terms of like what my future looks like and what's the potential for everything. I come from a long background of lawyers and so it was sort of being like, okay, is that an option? But I loved mathematics and I loved physics. And so I was like, okay, is that an option? And I actually sort of wanted to take a step back and really find that out. So after my freshman year, I actually took a year off of college and backpacked South America for a while, and literally just hiked a circle around South America for a year. And that was a very interesting time in my life. And it was also where I first found out in 2013 about Bitcoin. And it was where I first found out about the existence of blockchain. And it was because there was and by the way, oftentimes when people say that they got in early, there's one of two reasons. They are either a hardcore nerd who was involved in a lot of message boards, or they used it for nefarious purposes. And I met someone who regularly used it for nefarious purposes, such as finding, what's the right way to say, something to smoke to be delivered to their door.
So this is before cannabis became legal.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So
before cannabis was legal, they were like, "This is how we're going to get cannabis."
Yeah. We pay magic internet money and cannabis shows up at our door. Yeah, exactly. And so that was actually how I first got introduced to it. And then I started looking more and more into it. And I realized that it really was this tool to define your own financial freedom. And I fell in love with the concept. And I remember, I think I told you, I came back and I created this big presentation for my dad to say, like, hey, this needs to be everything we're doing. This is the future. This is going to be so impactful. He didn't understand it. I like to remind him every day of what his investment would be today, which is just some absolutely obscene number.
Especially I wasn't even asking for I was asking for 10 grand. Like it wasn't like a crazy, I need $100 million. You're like, I need $10,000. Like,
yeah.
And again, that's not a crazy number. I'm not, listen, I know people are going to watch say, oh, you're privileged as fuck for saying $10,000 isn't a lot of money. But if you really look at it, if you have a credit score of 700, you can get a $10,000 loan. That's literally what it is. That's it.
Yeah. No, it's I'm sure even less than 700. But yes, it was a very, very I assume by his standards reasonable number. And I was like, this is everything. This is what we need. And he said no, but I really like to regularly remind him what his investment would currently be.
You have Elon Musk money if you would have just listened to me.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, as I was mentioning earlier, I really stayed attached to it, and I stayed very invested in all the news and all the upcoming events and all the meetups. But not really as a builder. I wasn't a builder until I first discovered what the DeFi space meant to me and the possibilities that existed there. And that is when I became a builder and really found that I want to make this my life.
Well, you've made it your life. You've made this industry, being part of this industry, your career path, and now you're going to be helping others do this. When you're helping others build, you made a very unique statement. You say, "I like to help those that I choose to." Like you kind of said, I choose to help people that I believe are worthy of my time, and you don't hear that often. In a business setting, you often hear people going "Hey, I'm just here to take any client that comes in the door." You're like, "Nah, I choose who we work with." And so although you're a larger growing company and you had to scale, you're still boutique in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I think that balance is very, very interesting. And it's something that is proven to be a challenge to maintain every day for myself in terms of wanting to be able to scale the company in the way that it deserves while maintaining that existing culture that we have. I will say we've been very blessed and very lucky to be at a point to where we don't have any need to take on as many clients as we can. We don't have that need because we don't provide those cookie cutter solutions. Like I said earlier, we provide everyone that we work with, we treat as a partner. We're invested with them. We believe enough in our own skills and experience in this space to be as invested and have as much skin in the project as anyone else. and really prove our success. And that means having these intimate relationships with each of our clients and really truly acting as a partner to each person that we work with. And that means that we keep our client list, by certain standards, relatively small, and spend a lot of time with them and work with them a whole lot. And that model has proven relatively successful because we cannot scale fast enough in terms of hiring new people and trying to bring everyone on. But it's so important to us that as we hire new people, that they meet that culture, because what has provided our success so far and what has provided our clients' satisfaction so far is the fact that almost everyone on our team has experience in this space and really understands what it means to reach the Web3 community, and to really work well in this space and make a meaningful impact. So it's been quite the challenge, sort of going back and forth with myself and my partners. What is that right balance between scaling internally within our company and still providing this amazing value to our clients that we continue to do?
Well, I think value is always needed in every conversation, especially when we get into business practices. Now, for you, not Unchained Partners, but for the Hunter Williams right now, and for everybody that's watching, like literally he's like a tall, like dude, like really tall. Like I'm noticing that half of like DeFi folks, like I might actually have to have like real fights one day because these dudes are big as fuck. But anyway, for you and your future, do you see the Web3 crypto NFT space becoming one in which it takes over? It just astronomically takes over everyday life, and that everything has a use case, and then that guys like you are going to be twice as busy? Or do you see yourself retiring twice as early?
That is a really good question. That's a fantastic question. I see my job title changing and my job description changing, and what I do and what Unchained Partners is changing a whole lot in terms of, okay, so let's take a look at massive technologies that have come in the past. There was the internet. When the internet first came out, there was lots of consultants who were like, oh, you need to know what the internet is? Let me tell you all about it. Let me sort of introduce you into this space. And the original HTML and some of the things, this was a bit before my time. But that was sort of how it existed, where we almost needed shepherds into the space. And that's what I'm genuinely trying to be, especially because as our company has grown, we've started actually working a lot with Web2 companies as well, and sort of helping them shepherd them into the Web3 space and show them, how the ethos of crypto and blockchain and really helping them integrate well with it. And that's been something I've been, loving and super passionate about, and it's so much fun. And I get to talk about crypto all day. I see that changing, where it's now you don't need someone to say, let me tell you about the internet. Instead, it's just simply a facet of our lives.
So now that you are more of you hope to retire more than you want to be in this space even longer.
Well, no, I wouldn't say it's the case. I don't see a single world in which I am not involved in this space. I love this space. It's given me everything that I have today. And every morning I wake up excited to continue working in this space because I know what it can be. I do, however, see a world in which my current role and my current titles really switches from being a shepherd of like introducing people into the space and really helping businesses facilitate in the space, into someone who is simply more of an aficionado and a lover of the space, and still extremely involved. But it's like I said, I mean, we see, in the early days, you had internet consultants, which would teach companies like, what is the internet? How do you get involved? And now that's no longer needed. And now it's more around, how do we further expand it? How do we really, move to the next stage of the internet, where we have, in the early days we had HTML, now we have HTML correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a developer, but HTML5 and we have regular updates in this space. And I see it being the same way, where yes, it's extremely pervasive. It's a massive part of your lives, but it's not as complex as it is today, where it's simply something that we can onboard onto very quickly and have it be a massive part of our lives. And it's just a seamless process of something that exists within our lives, like the internet.
Well, right on. Well, Hunter Williams, this, we always like to keep these for 30 minutes because I got to tease people, right? And again, like, ladies, this tall drink of water is actually off the market, but well, if you want to DM them, go ahead or go check them out over at Unchained Partners. And maybe you might have some opportunities with them. But Hunter, thank you so much for joining us here on The Big Three and Me. I always like to talk about crypto culture and competition, and you happen to be the crypto guy for this week. So again, thank you so much for being here. And for everyone else watching at home, tell someone that you love them. Have a great day and an even better tomorrow.